The candlelight flickered between us, casting long, dancing shadows across the white tablecloth. From the outside, we were the perfect picture. A handsome, successful husband, a devoted wife, celebrating 10 years of marriage at one of Chicago's most exclusive restaurants. The low hum of quiet conversation and the gentle clink of silverware filled the air. But the space between Liam and me was a deafening silence. He hadn't really looked at me all night. His eyes, the same ones that used to be filled with a light I thought was reserved only for me, were distant, guarded. He cleared his throat, pushing a crisp, white envelope across the table. It slid over the polished wood and stopped just beside my wine glass. My heart, which had been a nervous, fluttering bird in my chest all evening, suddenly turned to stone. "Happy anniversary, Ava," he said, his voice low and devoid of any warmth. I looked from his face to the envelope. It wasn't a card. It was too thick, too formal. I didn't need to open it to know what it was. A part of me had known for months. "Liam, what is this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He wouldn't meet my gaze. He stared at a point just over my shoulder. "I'm sorry, Ava. I can't do this anymore." The words hit me, but I didn't shatter. Not yet. The pain was a cold, sharp thing, but it was clear. For the first time in a long time, everything was crystal clear. I felt a strange, bitter smile touch my lips. I reached into my purse, my movements slow and deliberate. I pulled out my tablet, its sleek black surface reflecting the flickering candle. I placed it on the table, right next to his envelope of lies. I pressed a single button on the screen. It lit up, illuminating the darkened space between us. The video had no sound, but it didn't need any. It showed a hotel room. It showed him. And it showed her. Serafina Finch, his boss's wife. Liam's face went white. The color drained from him, leaving behind a mask of pure shock and horror. His eyes shot up to meet mine. Finally seeing me. Really seeing me. "And this," I said, my voice steady and cold, "is my gift to you." But this story doesn't start with an ending. It starts 3 months earlier, on a Tuesday morning, in a house built on carefully constructed lies. The sun streamed into our kitchen, painting golden stripes across the polished quartz countertops. It was a beautiful kitchen in a beautiful house in a beautiful suburb of Chicago. A life I had once dreamed of, and one I had helped build. I flipped a pancake. The sizzle of familiar, comforting sound. My daughter, Lily, sat at the island, her small feet kicking happily against a stool as she colored in a picture of a unicorn. She was 8 years old, and she was my entire world. "Is Daddy coming down for breakfast, Mommy?" she asked, not looking up from her masterpiece. "He'll be down in a minute, sweetie," I said, forcing a cheerful tone. Liam was always busy, always stressed. At least, that's what I told myself. He was a senior architect at one of the city's top firms, and he was on the cusp of making partner. That was the goal, the thing we had both been working toward for years. He did the designing, the networking, the long hours. I did everything else. I managed the house, raised our daughter, hosted the perfect dinner parties for his colleagues. I had been a promising graphic designer before we got married, but my career had been gently, almost imperceptibly, pushed aside to make room for his. It was a sacrifice I had made willingly. For us, for our family. He finally came downstairs, already dressed in a sharp, tailored suit. He looked like the man on the cover of a magazine. He kissed the top of Lily's head and then gave me a quick, distracted peck on the cheek. It felt more like a habit than an act of affection. "Morning," he mumbled, his eyes already on the phone in his hand. He scrolled through emails as he poured himself a coffee. "I made your favorite," I said, sliding a plate of blueberry pancakes onto the island in front of him. "Thanks, babe. Looks great," he said. But he didn't touch them. He just kept scrolling, his thumb moving rhythmically across the screen. The silence stretched, filled only by the scratching of Lily's crayon. I used to love our mornings, the quiet chaos before school and work. But lately, they felt hollow. Liam was physically here, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. He was a ghost in our perfect home. "So, I was thinking," I started, trying to sound casual. "Our anniversary is in a few months. 10 years. We should plan something special. Maybe that trip to Italy we always talked about." He glanced up from his phone, a flicker of seething annoyance. Guilt. Crossing his face before it was gone. Ava. I can't. The Finch project is at a critical stage. Alistair is breathing down my neck. There's no way I can get away. Alistair Finch. His boss. The man who held Liam's future in his hands. Every conversation seemed to end with that name. It's our 10th anniversary. Liam. I said. My voice softer than I intended. It's a big one. I know. And we will celebrate. He said. His tone placating. As if he were speaking to a difficult client. We'll go out for a nice dinner. I'll buy you something beautiful. But a trip is just not possible right now. You have to understand. I understood. I always understood. I nodded. Turning back to the stove so he wouldn't see the disappointment on my face, I scooped some pancakes onto a plate for myself. But my appetite was gone. Later that day, after I dropped Lily at school, I found myself in my old home office. It had slowly been converted into a storage room over the years, filled with things we didn't have a place for. In the corner sat my old computer. On a whim, I turned it on. It whirred to life, a relic from a different time. I opened my old portfolio, the screen filled with logos I had designed, websites I had built, campaigns I had been proud of. I clicked on a folder I hadn't opened in years, labeled simply for me. It was filled with personal projects, sketches, ideas that were mine and mine alone. A different Ava had made these. An Ava who had her own ambitions, her own passions. I felt a sharp pang of loss, so intense it took my breath away. What had happened to her? I closed the laptop and the room felt quiet again. The lie I had been telling myself for years that I was perfectly happy, that this was now was beginning to feel thin and fragile. That afternoon, I called my best friend, Chloe. She was a divorce lawyer, a fact that had always been a running joke between us. She was sharp, cynical, and fiercely loyal. 10 years and he's offering you dinner? She said, her voice dripping with disdain after I recounted the morning's conversation. The man works more than God. He can take a week off for his own wife. It's a really important project. Chloe. Making partner would change everything for us. Even as I said the words, they sounded weak. Has it occurred to you that he's been on the verge of making partner for the last 3 years? It's his permanent excuse for everything. For missing Lily's recital. For forgetting your birthday last year until I reminded him. He didn't forget. I mumbled. He was just busy. Ava. She said, her tone softening. I'm your friend. And I love you. Which is why I have to be the one to say this. Pay attention. You're not happy. I can hear it in your voice. Just pay attention. Her words echoed in my head long after we hung up. Pay attention. The truth was, I had been actively trying not to. It was easier to ignore the little things. The way he guarded his phone, tilting the screen away whenever I walked into the room. The late nights at the office that were becoming more frequent. The emotional Grand Canyon that had opened up between us in our own bed. That evening, the first real crack appeared. Liam was in his study on a phone call. He usually kept the door open. But tonight it was closed. I was walking past with a basket of laundry when I heard his voice. Low and intimate. It wasn't his work voice. I paused, pressing my ear lightly against the cool wood of the door, feeling a hot wave of shame wash over me for eavesdropping. No, I know. He was saying. He has no idea. Of course. He doesn't. A soft chuckle. I miss you, too. More than you know. My blood ran cold. I stood frozen, my hand gripping the laundry basket so tightly my knuckles turned white. It could be anyone. A friend. A family member. But the tone of his voice, it was a tone I hadn't heard him use with me in a very, very long time. He said a hurried goodbye and a moment later, the door opened. He stopped short when he saw me standing there. A flash of panic crossed his eyes before his professional mask slid back into place. Ava, I didn't see you there. Who was that? I asked. My voice tight. Just a client. He said smoothly. A little too smoothly. Alistair's wife. Actually. Serafina. Just coordinating schedules for their gala next month. Serafina Finch. The name hung in the air between us. I had met her a few times at company events. She was beautiful, elegant, and always seemed bored. I had never seen them speak for more than a few minutes. It sounded personal. I said, testing him. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. Don't be silly. She's just dramatic. You know how those women are. Anyway, I have to send a few more emails. He brushed past me. leaving me alone in the hallway. The scent of his cologne filled the air. But underneath it, I thought I could smell something else. Something faint, floral, and unfamiliar. A perfume that wasn't mine. I stood there for a long time, the warmth from the laundry seeping into my cold hands. Chloe's voice was in my head. Pay attention. And for the first time, I was really, truly paying attention. The beautiful, perfect life I had built was an illusion, and I had a sickening feeling that it was about to come crashing down. That night, as I lay in bed next to a man who felt like a stranger, I made a decision. I was done ignoring the signs. I needed to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. My world was already broken. I just needed to see how deep the cracks really went. I thought about our upcoming anniversary. 10 years. A decade of my life. A decade of love. Of sacrifice. Of building a future together. Or so I had thought. Now, it felt like a countdown. A deadline. I didn't know what I was going to find. But I knew one thing for sure. This anniversary would be one we would never forget. A few days later, another piece of the puzzle fell into place. I was sorting through the mail when a credit card statement caught my eye. It was for a card Liam kept for business expenses. Usually, his assistant handled it, but this one had been mailed to the house by mistake. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was mostly what I expected: expensive dinners in the city, Ubers, office supplies, and then I saw it. A charge from a high-end jewelry store downtown. A place called Genevieve's. The charge was for $5,000. It was dated 2 weeks ago. My birthday had been the month before. He'd given me a gift certificate to a spa. Christmas was months away. This wasn't for me. My heart pounded against my ribs. There was an item description next to the charge. The Serafina necklace. The name was a punch to the gut. It couldn't be a coincidence. It was a delicate gold locket with a single sapphire. I knew this because I had seen it. I had seen it around her neck at the last company fundraiser. Serafina Finch, laughing with a group of people. Her hand unconsciously touching the very necklace my husband had bought. The credit card statement slipped from my fingers and fluttered to the floor. The air in my perfect, sun-drenched kitchen suddenly felt thin, and I couldn't seem to draw a full breath. He wasn't just distant. He wasn't just stressed. He was living a lie. He was living a whole other life, and he was using our money. The future I had sacrificed for, to fund it. The denial I had wrapped myself in for so long was ripped away, leaving me raw and exposed. There was no more explaining it away. No more giving him the benefit of the doubt. The evidence was right there, in black and white. The sadness I expected to feel was there. A deep, aching void in my chest. But underneath it, something else was stirring. A slow, burning anger. A cold, hard resolve. He had made a fool of me. He had taken my love, my loyalty, my sacrifice, and thrown it all away. I had given him 10 years of my life. I had given him a daughter, a home, a perfect life to present to the world. He thought I was weak. He thought I was the quiet, supportive wife who would never question him. He had underestimated me, and he was about to find out just how wrong he was. I stood in the silent kitchen for a long time, the credit card statement a crumpled piece of paper in my fist. The anger was a fire in my veins, burning away the years of quiet compliance. I had given him everything, and he had repaid me with the ultimate betrayal, using our shared life as a backdrop for his sordid affair. He didn't just cheat on me. He cheated on the woman who gave up her dreams for his, the woman who raised his child, the woman who believed in him when no one else did. My hands were shaking, but my mind was unnervingly calm. I took a deep, steadying breath, walked to the sink, and poured myself a glass of water. As I drank, I looked at my reflection in the dark kitchen window. The woman staring back at me looked tired, her eyes shadowed with the sadness she had been carrying for too long. But there was something else there, too. A flicker of steel, a spark I hadn't seen in a decade. The next morning, I drove to Chloe's office in the city. Her space was the complete opposite of my suburban home, all glass, chrome, and sharp angles. It was a place where things were decided, where battles were fought and won. She took one look at my face as I walked in and canceled her next appointment. "Okay," she said, closing the door to her office and gesturing for me to sit on the leather couch. "Spill it. And don't you dare tell me everything is fine." I didn't. I laid it all out for her. The late nights, the closed-door phone calls, the scent of another woman's perfume, and finally, the crumpled credit card statement. which I smoothed out and placed on her glass coffee table like a piece of damning evidence. In a trial. Chloe picked it up, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the paper. She read the line item for the necklace, her expression hardening. She didn't say "I told you so." She didn't need to. Serafina Finch, she said, her voice a low growl. Of course. The classic cliché. Sleeping with the boss's wife to get ahead. He's not just an idiot, Ava. He's a walking stereotype. Tears I didn't know I was holding back started to well in my eyes. What do I do? Chloe. I feel so lost. My entire life. Our life. It's all a lie. She came and sat next to me, putting a firm, comforting arm around my shoulders. You're not lost. You're just waking up. And the first thing you do is get smart. Crying is for later. Right now. We strategize. That was Chloe. Always 3 steps ahead. What you have here, she said, tapping the statement, is circumstantial evidence. It's strong. But in a messy divorce, Liam's lawyer will tear it apart. They'll say it was a gift for a client. They'll say you're a jealous, hysterical wife. They will try to paint you as unhinged. You need something they can't argue with. You need undeniable proof. Proof? I asked. My voice small. Like catching them. Exactly like catching them. She confirmed. Her lawyer brain fully engaged. Photos. Video. Something that leaves no room for doubt. It protects you. It protects Lily. And it gives you all the leverage when it comes to the divorce settlement. He built this life on your back. Ava, you are not walking away from it with nothing. The thought of it made me sick to my stomach. Hiring someone to follow my husband, to photograph him with another woman. It felt sordid. Vile. I don't know if I can do that. I whispered. Chloe looked me straight in the eye. Think about Lily. Do you want her to grow up in a house filled with lies? Do you want her to see her mother shrink and fade away? Or do you want her to see her mother fight for herself, for her future? Liam made this choice. He brought this ugliness into your home. All you're doing now is turning on the lights. Her words resonated deep inside me. She was right. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about showing my daughter what a strong woman does when she is knocked down. She gets back up. And she fights. Okay, I said. My voice stronger now. How do I do it? Chloe smiled. A grim, determined smile. I know a guy. He's the best. Discreet. Professional. And very, very good at his job. The final push came a week later. I was trying to maintain a sense of normalcy at home for Lily's sake. It was the hardest acting job of my life. I would smile at Liam, ask about his day, and all the while, the image of that necklace and the sound of his secret phone call would play on a loop in my mind. He came home late one evening, looking pleased with himself. Big news, Ava, he announced, loosening his tie as he walked into the kitchen. Alistair is sending me to that big architectural conference in San Diego. It's a huge opportunity. A lot of big names will be there. I felt my blood run cold. When is it? I asked, already knowing the answer. He had the decency to look away, focusing on the contents of the refrigerator. It's the weekend of the 10th, he said, his voice muffled. I know. The timing is terrible. It's our anniversary. I am so sorry. Babe. I tried to get out of it, but Alistair insisted. You know how it is. I stared at the back of his head. He didn't even have the courage to look at me while he delivered the most blatant lie yet. There was no conference. There was a romantic getaway. With her. On my anniversary. He wasn't just erasing me from his future. He was actively writing me out of our past. Desecrating a day that was supposed to be sacred to us. That was it. The last thread of doubt. Of hesitation. Snapped. Of course. I said. My voice eerily calm. I understand. It's for your career. It's for us. He turned. Relief flooding his face. He was so arrogant. So sure of his power over me. That he bought it completely. Thank you for understanding. Ava. I knew you would. I'll make it up to you. I promise. We'll have our own celebration when I get back. I just smiled. A cold, empty smile that didn't reach my eyes. I'm sure you will. The next day, I transferred $5,000 from a savings account I had kept since before we were married me would have funded into my checking account. I called the number Chloe had given me. A man with a quiet, professional voice answered. His name was Marcus. I explained what I needed. My voice clinical and detached. As if I were talking about a stranger's life. I gave him Liam's schedule, his photo, and Serafina's name. And I added, my voice hardening, I have a strong suspicion he will be traveling the weekend of the 10th. I need to know where he goes. I need to know everything. I understand, Mrs. Porter, Marcus said. I'll be in touch. The days that followed were a special kind of hell. I lived a double life. On the surface, I was the perfect wife and mother. I helped Lily with her homework. I made dinner. I asked Liam if he had packed everything he needed for his conference. I even feigned disappointment about our anniversary, playing the part of the long-suffering but supportive wife he expected me to be. Inside, I was a wreck. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leaped into my throat. I barely ate. I couldn't sleep. I was living on coffee and adrenaline, waiting for the axe to fall. The axe I had paid to have sharpened. It was a Thursday afternoon, 2 days before Liam was scheduled to leave. Lily was at a friend's house, and I was sitting at the kitchen island, staring blankly at a magazine, when my phone chimed with a new email notification. The sender was an anonymous, encrypted address. The subject line contained only a case number. My hands trembled so hard I could barely unlock my phone. I opened the mail. There was no text, just a single, password-protected video file and a link to a secure download. I felt a wave of nausea. This was it, the point of no return. For a moment, I considered deleting it. I could just pretend I never saw it. I could go on living in my beautiful house, in my beautiful lie. But I knew I couldn't. I deserved the truth. And Lily deserved a mother who wasn't a coward. With a deep breath, I downloaded the file. It took an eternity. I carried my laptop into my study, the one place that still felt like mine, and closed the door. I typed in the password Marcus had given me. The file opened. A video player appeared on my screen. My mouse hovered over the play button. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the silent room. I clicked play. The video was clear, professionally shot from a discreet angle across the street. It showed the entrance to a boutique hotel in the city, the kind of place people go when they don't want to be seen. I saw Liam's car pull up. I saw him get out. A moment later, Serafina Finch emerged from a taxi. They didn't touch, but the way they looked at each other as they walked inside, it was a look of shared secrets, of stolen intimacy. The scene cut to a view from an adjacent building, looking into a hotel room window. The curtains weren't fully drawn. It was them. There was no sound, just the grainy, silent movements of a life being torn apart. I watched as he handed her a glass of champagne. I watched as he touched her face, his fingers tracing her jawline in a way he used to touch mine. And then, I saw him take the necklace from his pocket, the Serafina necklace. He fastened it around her neck, and she tilted her head back and laughed, a silent picture of triumph. I felt nothing at first, just a cold, spreading numbness. It was as if I were watching a movie about someone else's life. But then, the video continued. I saw him kiss her. I saw him lead her toward the bed, his hand on the small of her back. I saw more than I ever wanted to see. I saw the man I had loved for more than a decade give another woman the passion and attention he had denied me for years. That's when the numbness shattered, and the pain hit me. It was a physical blow, a monstrous wave that crashed over me, stealing my breath, crushing my chest. A sob tore from my throat, raw and animalistic. The tears came then, hot and blinding. I wasn't crying for the loss of him. I was crying for the fool I had been, for the years I had wasted, for the love I had given so freely to a man who was incapable of valuing it. I cried until I had no tears left. I sat in the darkness of my study, the empty video player glowing on the screen. The grief was a hollowed-out cavern inside me. But in that cavern, something new was taking shape. The pain was crystallizing, hardening, into a plan. He thought he was going on a romantic getaway for our anniversary. He thought he would come back with a few empty apologies and a meaningless gift, and I would welcome him with open arms. He was wrong. I saved a copy of the video to my tablet. He wanted to give me divorce papers for our anniversary. Fine. I would give him a gift, too. One he would never see coming. The game was no longer his to control. It was mine. The 2 days between watching the video and our anniversary dinner were the longest of my life. I moved through my home like a ghost, an actress playing the role of Ava Porter. I smiled. I cooked. I helped Liam pack his suitcase for his conference, folding his crisp shirts and laying them neatly next to the suit he planned to wear for our anniversary dinner. The irony was so thick it was almost suffocating. He was packing for 2 separate betrayals in one bag. I felt a strange, chilling sense of power. For the first time in our marriage, I knew a secret he didn't know I knew. The playing field, which had been tilted in his favor for so long, had finally leveled. He saw me as the oblivious, supportive wife. He had no idea he was walking into a perfectly laid trap. On the evening of our anniversary, I took my time getting ready. I chose a simple, elegant black dress. It was a dress he had never seen before. I did my makeup carefully, not to hide the faint shadows under my eyes, but to accentuate the new, hard light within them. When I looked in the mirror, I saw the woman I was, but also the woman I was about to become. I was no longer just a wife or a mother. I was a survivor. Liam was waiting for me downstairs. He looked incredible in his dark gray suit. He smiled when he saw me. A practiced, charming smile that no longer reached his eyes. "Wow, Ava, you look stunning," he said, his voice laced with the false sincerity I could now hear so clearly. "You too," I replied, my voice even. Ready to go. The drive to the restaurant was filled with his chatter about work, about the Finch project, about how much pressure he was under. I listened, nodding in all the right places, making the appropriate sounds of sympathy. It was all noise, white noise filling the space where a real conversation, a real connection, used to be. I clutched my purse on my lap. The hard, rectangular shape of the tablet inside a comforting weight. The restaurant was exactly as I remembered from the cold open of my own personal tragedy. It was beautiful, expensive, and suffocatingly quiet. A place designed for whispered secrets and grand gestures. As the waiters seated us at our secluded corner table, I felt a sense of calm settle over me. This was the stage, and the performance was about to begin. We ordered wine. We looked at the menus. Liam talked, and I pretended to listen. He was so confident, so completely unaware. He thought he was in control. He thought this was his night, his narrative. "Ava," he started. After the waiter had taken our order, he reached across the table, his hand covering mine. His skin was warm, but the touch felt cold, alien. I resisted the urge to pull away. "I know the last year has been difficult. I've been buried in work. I haven't been the husband you deserve." "Here it comes," I thought. The gentle letdown. The carefully rehearsed speech designed to make him look like a tragic hero, instead of a cheating bastard. "It's not you. It's me," he continued, his voice low and earnest. "I feel like I've lost myself somewhere along the way. I need space to figure out who I am again." I just looked at him, my expression unreadable. I let him talk. I wanted to hear every single lie. "That's why this is so hard," he said, pulling his hand back and reaching for the white envelope in his jacket pocket. He slid it across the table, just as I knew he would. It stopped beside my wine glass. A death sentence for a decade of my life. "Happy anniversary, Ava," he said, his voice thick with fake emotion. "I'm sorry, Ava. I can't do this anymore." I stared at the envelope. Inside, I knew, were divorce papers, legal documents that would attempt to neatly sever a life built together. He expected tears. He expected a scene. Maybe pleading, anger. What he didn't expect was my smile. It was a small, sad, knowing smile. I looked up from the envelope and met his eyes. He looked confused by my lack of reaction. "You're right, Liam," I said, my voice quiet but clear. "We can't do this anymore." His face relaxed in relief. He thought it was that easy. He thought I would just fold. But before we signed anything, I continued, reaching into my purse. My fingers closed around the tablet. "I think you should open your anniversary gift first." I placed the tablet on the table between us. I unlocked the screen and pressed play. The silent video began. The hotel lobby. His car. Her taxi. His face, which had been a mask of feigned sorrow, went rigid. His eyes widened, fixed on the small screen. He saw himself walking into the hotel with Serafina Finch, his boss's wife. He saw the scene cut to the hotel room. He saw himself pouring champagne. The color drained from his face. He looked like he had been punched in the stomach. He snatched the tablet, his fingers fumbling, as if touching it would somehow make the images disappear. He watched himself fasten my $5,000 necklace around her throat. He watched himself lean in and kiss her. He slammed the tablet face down on the table. the sound echoing in the quiet restaurant. A few heads turned in our direction. "What the hell is this?" he hissed, his voice a venomous whisper. "What did you do?" I believe the question is, "What did you do?" I replied calmly, taking a slow sip of my wine. The expensive red wine tasted like victory. "You spied on me? You have me followed? Is that what this is?" This is insane. Ava, it's illegal." His first instinct wasn't remorse. It wasn't an apology. It was rage. It was accusation. He was trying to flip the script, to make me the villain. The old Ava would have crumbled. The old Ava would have doubted herself. But the old Ava wasn't here tonight. Is it more illegal than adultery? Than spending our family's money on your mistress? Than lying to my face every single day for God knows how long? I kept my voice low, but each word was a precisely aimed dart. He was shaking his head, his breath coming in short, sharp bursts. "This isn't what it looks like." I almost laughed. It was the most pathetic, predictable line in the cheater's handbook. "Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like. Liam, it looks like you. Sleeping with Serafina Finch. It looks like my husband. The man I gave up my career for. The father of my child. Destroying our family for a promotion." I picked up the white envelope. "And it looks like you thought you were going to hand me these papers. Walk away clean. And leave me with nothing but a broken heart. You miscalculated." He stared at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of hatred and disbelief. He wasn't looking at his quiet, compliant wife anymore. He was looking at a stranger. "What do you want, Ava?" He finally choked out. "What do I want?" I leaned forward slightly. "Right now, I want you to get out of my house. Our daughter and I will be staying. You can go back to whatever hotel you've been using. Pack a bag tonight. Your lawyer will be hearing from mine." "Our house? I paid for that house." He snarled. "Did you? Or did my inheritance provide the down payment? Did my years of unpaid labor as a stay-at-home mom, a role that allowed you to work 80 hours a week, contribute nothing? We can let the courts decide. If you'd like. I'm sure a judge would be very interested to see this video. And I wonder, what do you think Alistair Finch will do when he sees it?" The threat landed exactly as I intended. The mention of his boss's name made him flinch. His entire career, the very thing he had sacrificed his family for, was now hanging by a thread. And I was the one holding the scissors. He was speechless, cornered. He just sat there, staring at the overturned tablet. The ruins of his carefully constructed life spread out on the white tablecloth between us. I stood up, my legs steady. I placed a $100 bill on the table. "Dinner's on me," I said. "Happy anniversary." I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. I could feel his eyes on me, burning into my back. But I kept walking. I walked past the curious stares of the other diners, through the heavy oak doors, and out into the cool Chicago night. The city air filled my lungs, clean and fresh. For the first time in a decade, I felt like I could breathe again. The war had just begun. I knew that. It was going to be ugly and painful. But as I hailed a cab to take me home to my home, I wasn't scared. I was free. The drive home was surreal. The city lights blurred into long streaks of color through the taxi window. My heart was still pounding. A mix of adrenaline and terror in a strange, exhilarating sense of release. I had done it. I had faced the monster. And I hadn't flinched. The woman who got into that cab was not the same one who had left the house 2 hours earlier. When I walked through the front door, the house was quiet. The babysitter was reading on the sofa, and Lily was fast asleep upstairs. I paid her, thanked her, and then stood in the silent foyer, the events of the evening crashing down on me. Our home. It looked the Samith family photos on the wall, Lily's small shoes kicked off by the door, the faint scent of the dinner I'd cooked the night before. But everything was different. The foundation had been shattered. I went upstairs and crept into Lily's room. She was curled on her side, her favorite worn teddy bear tucked under her arm. Her chest rose and fell in the steady rhythm of innocent sleep. I brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, and a wave of fierce, protective love washed over me. This was what mattered. She was what mattered. Chloe was right. I was fighting for her, for a future free of the poison of her father's lies. I would not let his choices destroy her. I was sitting in the darkened living room, a cold cup of tea in my hands, when I heard his car pull into the driveway. It was nearly midnight. I braced myself. The controlled confrontation at the restaurant was one thing. A fight in our home, the place where we had built our life, was another. He came in through the garage, his movements heavy, He didn't turn on the lights, but I could see a silhouette in the moonlight streaming through the large windows. Ava? He called out, his voice tentative. I'm in here, I said, my voice flat. He walked into the living room and stood there, looking lost and out of place in the room he had slept in the night before. We need to talk about this, he said, his voice low. I believe I said everything I needed to say at the restaurant, I replied, not moving from my chair. You need to pack a bag and leave. Ava, be reasonable. It's the middle of the night. Where am I supposed to go? And what are we going to tell Lily? The mention of our daughter's name was a deliberate tactic. He was trying to use her to guilt me into backing down. The anger I had felt at the restaurant returned, hot and sharp. You should have thought about Lily before you started sleeping with your boss's wife, I snapped. And you can go to a hotel. You can go to her apartment. Frankly, Liam, I don't care where you go, but you are not sleeping in this house tonight. He took a step closer, his hands raised in a placating gesture. Okay. You're angry. I get it. I screwed up. Royally. I know that. But we can't just throw away 10 years. We have a family. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I stared at him in disbelief. He still didn't get it. He thought this was something that could be fixed. Like a leaky faucet or a broken chair. He thought a few therapy sessions could paper over a betrayal of this magnitude. Fix this? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. There is nothing to fix. Liam, you didn't just make a mistake. You made a choice. You made hundreds of choices. Every time you lied to me. Every time you deleted a text message. Every time you came home smelling of her perfume. Those were all choices. And this is the consequence. It just happened. Ava, it didn't mean anything. He pleaded, his voice cracking with a desperation that might have moved me months ago. Now, it just sounded pathetic. Didn't mean anything? I stood up, unable to sit still any longer. You bought her a $5,000 necklace. Liam, you were planning to take her on a trip for our anniversary. You handed me divorce papers because you wanted to leave me for her. Don't you dare stand there and tell me it didn't mean anything. It meant everything. It meant more than me. More than Lily. More than our entire life together. He ran a hand through his hair. A gesture of pure frustration. He was losing control. And he hated it. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Alistair has been dangling that partnership in front of me for years. Serafina, she has influence over him. It was strategic. The excuse was so vile. So coldly transactional. That it momentarily stunned me into silence. He wasn't even trying to pretend it was about love or passion. He had sold our marriage for a corner office. Strategic. I repeated, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. So you prostituted our marriage for a job title. Congratulations. Liam. I hope it was worth it. Now get out. His face hardened. The fox remorse disappearing completely. Replaced by the ugly sneer of a cornered animal. Fine. You want a war. Ava, you'll get one. I'm not leaving my home. And I'm sure as hell not leaving my daughter with you when you're acting like this. You're unstable. I'm unstable. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. That's your move? To paint me as a crazy wife? Good luck with that. I have a video. Remember? Or did you forget about your strategy session with Serafina? He took a menacing step toward me. You send that video to anyone, and I will make your life a living hell. I will take Lily from you. I will tell the court you're an unfit mother. I will drain every cent we have on lawyers until you have nothing left. I didn't back down. I stood my ground. My chin held high. Try it. I'm not the same woman you married. Liam, I'm not the woman who will sit quietly while you destroy everything. You have no idea who you're dealing with anymore. We stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills in the moonlit living room. The love we once shared was gone, replaced by something toxic and unrecognizable. Finally, he broke. With a roar of frustration, he turned and slammed his fist into the wall, leaving a spider web of cracks in the plaster. The sound echoed through the silent house. Upstairs, I heard Lily stir in her sleep. That was it. The line had been crossed. Get out, I said, my voice dropping to an icy whisper. Get out now, before I call the police. He looked from my face to the damage he had done, and something in his expression shifted. Fear. He knew he had gone too far. Without another word, he turned, strode to the hallway closet, and grabbed the overnight bag he had packed for his trip with Serafina. He walked to the front door, pausing with his hand on the knob. "You'll regret this, Ava," he said, his voice low and threatening. "No, Liam," I replied, walking to the door and locking it behind him. "I'm just getting started." The days that followed were a blur of logistics and legalities. The first thing I did was call Chloe. I told her everything. She was ecstatic and furious all at once. "He threatened you? He tried to blame you? Oh, I am going to enjoy this," she said with a grim satisfaction. "I'm filing a motion for temporary exclusive occupancy of the house and temporary custody of Lily first thing in the morning. Let him try to fight it. That video is our golden ticket." True to her word, Liam was served with papers a few days later. His lawyer, a slick, expensive-looking man named Arthur Vance, immediately went on the offensive. They contested everything. They claimed Liam was the primary breadwinner and the house was his. They claimed my action during a private investigator were proof of my emotional instability. Living in the house became a form of psychological warfare. Liam had a key, and while he mostly stayed away, he would show up unannounced, under the guise of picking up his things or wanting to see Lily. Each visit was a carefully orchestrated performance designed to unnerve me. He would move things around, leave passive-aggressive notes, and speak to me in a low, condescending tone whenever Lily was in earshot. My home, my sanctuary, now felt like a battleground. I started locking the doors even when I was inside. I felt a constant knot of anxiety in my stomach. He was trying to wear me down, to make me feel unsafe in my own space. But I had Chloe, a rock in the storm. She handled the legal side with brutal efficiency, shielding me from the worst of the attacks. And I had Lily. Every morning, her bright smile and warm hugs were a reminder of what I was fighting for. I explained to her, in the simplest terms I could, that Daddy was going to be living somewhere else for a little while, but that we both loved her very much. Her quiet acceptance was both heartbreaking and a testament to her resilience. She had sensed the tension in the house for months. In a way, the quiet that now filled her home was more peaceful than the strange silence that had preceded it. I started taking small steps to reclaim my life. I reopened my old graphic design portfolio. The work felt dated, a lifetime away, but the spark was still there. I reached out to a few old contacts, just to test the waters. It was terrifying and exhilarating. For the first time in 10 years, I was thinking about my future, a future that I would build myself. The calm, however, was temporary. About 2 weeks after our anniversary, Liam made his next move. I came home from grocery shopping to find a registered letter in my mailbox. It was from his lawyer. It was a formal petition for full physical custody of Lily. I read the document, my hands shaking. It was filled with lies and exaggerations. It painted me as a vengeful, erratic woman obsessed with ruining her husband's life, incapable of providing a stable environment for a child. It cited the private investigator as an example of my obsessive and paranoid behavior. He was twisting my act of self-preservation into a weapon against me. He wasn't just trying to win the house or the money. He was trying to take my daughter. He was aiming for my heart, for the one thing I could not bear to lose. This wasn't a divorce anymore. It was all-out war. And he had just made it clear that there were no rules, and no depths to which he wouldn't sink. The custody petition felt like a physical blow. I sank onto the kitchen floor. The legal documents spread around me like shrapnel. For all my newfound strength, this was the one attack I had truly feared. He knew it. He knew Lily was my entire world, and he was using her as the ultimate weapon, a human shield in a war he had started. The thought of losing her, even for a day, was a black hole of terror that threatened to swallow me whole. I sat there for what felt like an hour, my mind racing. The old Ava, the one who doubted and appeased, was screaming inside my head, telling me to give in, to beg him to stop, to do whatever it took to make this go away. It would be so much easier to surrender, to accept a lesser deal just to keep my daughter safe. Then, I looked up at the refrigerator, at the colorful, crooked drawings taped to the door, a smiling sun, a lopsided house, and a picture of the two of us, labeled Mommy and Lily best friends. My daughter's bright, innocent world. He wasn't trying to protect her. He was trying to punish me. And I would not let him use our child as collateral damage. With a surge of cold fury, I gathered the papers, grabbed my phone, and called Chloe. He filed for full custody, I said, my voice tight and strained. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, and then Chloe's voice, sharp as broken glass. That son of a bitch. I knew he'd stoop low. But this is a new level of scum. Don't worry, Ava. This is a scare tactic. It's what desperate men with bad lawyers do. It's not going to work. He's calling me unstable. Chloe. He's twisting everything to make me look like a crazy, vengeful monster. Let him try. She spat. We have the truth. More importantly, we have a video of him committing career suicide with his boss's wife. He thinks he's playing chess, but he's just knocked over the whole damn board. Now, listen to me. This is the midpoint. This is where he pushes with everything he's got, hoping you'll break. We are not going to break. We are going to push back. Harder. Her confidence was a lifeline. She was right. This was his desperate, all-or-nothing move. He thought he could bully me into submission. He still didn't understand who he was dealing with. What do we do? I asked. My voice steadier now. He wants to play dirty. Fine. We've been holding our trump card. It's time to leak the video, she said. To Alastair Finch? I asked, my stomach twisting at the thought. As much as I hated Liam, the idea of deliberately and directly ruining his career felt heavy. It felt like a step into a darkness I couldn't come back from. No, Chloe said, anticipating my hesitation. Not to Finch directly. That's too clean. Too personal. It could be spun as a woman-scorned revenge plot. We need to be smarter. We're going to neutralize Liam's power base, his reputation. Chloe's plan was brilliant in its ruthless efficiency. She knew a journalist who ran a popular, high-end gossip blog in Chicago called the Windy City Whisper. It was a must-read for the city's elite lawyers, the bankers, the socialites. It was known for its accuracy and its ability to cause major scandals with a single, well-placed post. We'll send it to them anonymously, she explained. An edited version. We'll blur Serafina's face just enough to create plausible deniability. But anyone who knows her will know exactly who it is. The focus won't be on the affair itself, but on the shocking indiscretion of a senior architect at a top firm, on the cusp of a partnership. The implication will be clear. If he's this reckless in his personal life, how can he be trusted with multi-million-dollar projects? It was a surgical strike, aimed not at the heart, but at the very foundation of Liam's identity, his professional image. It would discredit him in the circles that mattered most to him, making him a liability to his firm and to Alastair Finch. The idea made me both sick and empowered. It was a vicious move, but Liam had left me no choice. He had put my daughter in the crosshairs. All bets were off. Do it, I said. That night, after Lily was asleep, I sat at my computer and did the editing myself. My graphic design skills, which had lain dormant for so long, came rushing back. I carefully pixelated Serafina's face in every frame. A ghost in her own indiscretion. I left Liam's face perfectly, brutally clear. I attached the edited clip to an anonymous, encrypted email and sent it to the address Chloe had given me. As I hit send, I felt a profound sense of finality. There was no going back now. The story broke 2 days later. It was a Tuesday morning. I had just dropped Lily at school when my phone started vibrating nonstop. It was Chloe. Check the whisper. Now, was all she said. My hands trembled as I typed the URL into my browser. And there it was. The lead story. The headline was sensational. Finch and Associates rising star caught in compromising position. The article was expertly written, filled with suggestive language but careful to avoid any outright accusations that could lead to a libel suit. It spoke of an anonymous source, a video showing a prominent Chicago architect in a very intimate setting with a mysterious, well-connected brunette. And there it was. A short, looping gif from the video. Liam, clear as day, kissing the blurred-out face of Serafina Finch. The story spread like wildfire. Within an hour, it was the talk of the town. My phone buzzed with texts from old friends and acquaintances, people I hadn't heard from in years. Are you okay? Thinking of you. I'm so sorry. Ava. They all knew. Everyone knew. I should have felt humiliated, exposed. But I didn't. I felt a strange sense of vindication. The secret I had been carrying alone was finally out in the open, and the world was seeing Liam for who he really was. The fallout for Liam was immediate and catastrophic. He called me, his voice a frantic, strangled whisper. What did you do? My God. Ava, what did you do? I did what I had to do to protect my daughter, I said, my voice cold and even. You've ruined me. My career is over. Alastair called me this morning. He saw it. Everyone saw it. They've suspended me, pending an internal investigation. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes, I said. I've shown everyone the truth. The truth you tried to hide. The truth you were willing to destroy our family for. You brought this on yourself. Liam. Every last bit of it. I hung up before he could respond. The aftermath was brutal. The blog post set off a chain reaction. Alastair Finch, a man obsessed with his firm's reputation, was furious. Not just because Liam had slept with his wife, but because he had been stupid enough to get caught, embarrassing the firm and, by extension, Alastair himself. Liam's partnership thing he had sacrificed everything for was gone. His career, at least in Chicago, was in ashes. Serafina, protected by her blurred-out face and her husband's power, disappeared from the public eye, likely sent on an extended vacation to Europe. She would survive. It was Liam who was left to face the inferno alone. He became a pariah. His so-called friends from work stopped returning his calls. He was ostracized from the elite social circles he had worked so hard to penetrate. He had built his entire identity on the foundation of his career and his reputation. Without them, he was nothing. His lawyer immediately withdrew the petition for full custody. They knew they didn't stand a chance now. Liam was no longer the successful, stable provider. He was a disgraced, unemployed adulterer. I was the stable one. I was a wronged party. I had the moral high ground. And now, I had the legal high ground too. It was a victory. But it didn't feel as sweet as I thought it would. Watching the complete and utter implosion of the man I had once loved, the father of my child, was a complicated, messy thing. There was a grim satisfaction. Yes. But there was also a profound sadness for the life we had lost, for the man he could have been if his ambition hadn't consumed him. But any lingering sympathy I might have felt was erased a week later. I received an email from Chloe with the subject line, "You need to see this." It was a copy of Liam's financial disclosures for the divorce proceedings. As I scrolled through the pages of bank statements and investment accounts, I saw it. A separate account, one I had never known existed. For the past 5 years, a portion of his salary had been diverted into the secret account. It contained over $200,000. He had been planning this for years. Planning his exit. Planning to leave me and Lily with the house, the mortgage, and a fraction of our shared assets, while he walked away with a secret nest egg. The video was about his betrayal of our vows. This was a betrayal of our partnership, of our trust, of our entire shared history. He hadn't just cheated on me with another woman. He had been actively stealing from our family's future for half a decade. Any sadness I felt for him vanished, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. This wasn't just a divorce anymore. It was about justice. He had tried to take everything from Memi dignity, my daughter, my financial security. He had underestimated me at every turn. Now, standing on the ruins of his life, he was about to learn just how much his miscalculation would truly cost him. The real battle was about to begin. The discovery of the secret bank account changed everything. It was no longer just about infidelity. It was about calculated, long-term fraud. Liam hadn't just stumbled into an affair. He had been meticulously planning an escape, siphoning off our shared future into a private fund while I was at home budgeting for groceries and planning Lily's birthday parties. The sheer, cold-blooded premeditation of it all extinguished any remaining embers of pity I had for him. Chloe was practically vibrating with righteous fury when I told her, "This is it, Ava. This is a nail in his coffin. Financial fraud is a cardinal sin in divorce court. He didn't just hide assets. He actively defrauded you. A judge is going to crucify him for this." Our strategy shifted. The video had won us the public relations battle and secured my position with Lily. The secret account would win us the war. Chloe's team of forensic accountants descended on Liam's finances, tracing every dollar he had hidden. Liam, realizing how much trouble he was in, became even more desperate. His attacks grew more personal, more unhinged. His lawyer, Arthur Vance, filed motion after motion, trying to paint me as a gold digger, a woman who had orchestrated this entire scandal to get a bigger settlement. They subpoenaed my friends, my family, even the stay-at-home moms from Lily's school, hoping to dig up any dirt they could find. They were trying to create chaos, to muddy the waters so much that the judge would throw up his hands and just split everything down the middle. The pressure was immense. My life became a series of depositions and legal meetings. I had to recount the most painful and intimate details of my marriage to a room full of strangers. Vance was a master of insinuation. His questions designed to make me doubt my own memory. My own sanity. Mrs. Porter, isn't it true that you hadn't worked in 10 years? That you were entirely financially dependent on your husband? He'd ask, his voice dripping with condescension. I was raising our child and managing our household so that my husband could focus on the career that supported us both. It was a partnership. I'd reply, my voice steady, repeating the words Chloe and I had practiced. A partnership where he earned all the money, and you spent it. He'd counter. It was humiliating. It was exhausting. There were nights I would come home and just sit in my car, too emotionally drained to even walk inside. But then I would see the light on in Lily's window, and I would find the strength to keep going. I was fighting for more than just money. I was fighting for the value of the last 10 years of my life. I was fighting for my contribution to be recognized, not dismissed as a frivolous expense. The day of the final hearing arrived. It was a cold, gray morning. The courtroom felt sterile and imposing. I sat at one table with Chloe, dressed in a simple, professional gray suit. Liam sat at the other with Arthur Vance. He wouldn't look at me. He looked smaller, diminished. The arrogant, confident man I had married was gone, replaced by a pale, hollowed-out stranger. His career was in shambles, his reputation destroyed, and his face was a mask of bitter resentment. Vance began his closing argument by painting a picture of Liam as a victim, a talented, hardworking man who had made a single, regrettable mistake, and was now being targeted by a vengeful, greedy ex-wife. He portrayed me as a woman who had planned this whole thing, leaking the video not out of pain, but out of malice. Ava Porter was not a victim in this, Vance argued, his voice resonating through the silent courtroom. She was an opportunist. She saw a chance to turn her husband's indiscretion into a winning lottery ticket. I could feel the anger rising in my chest. A hot, suffocating wave. But I held my ground, keeping my expression neutral. My hands folded calmly on the table in front of me. I would not give him the satisfaction of seeing me crack. Then it was Chloe's turn. She stood up, and the entire energy in the room shifted. She wasn't loud or theatrical. She was precise, methodical, and utterly commanding. She started not with the affair, but with my old graphic design portfolio, which she submitted as evidence. Before Ava Porter was a wife and a mother, she was a designer of considerable talent and promise. This is a career she willingly and happily put on hold to support her husband's ambition, based on a promise of a shared future. A future Mr. Porter was secretly plotting to steal. She then walked the judge through the financial records. With surgical precision, she laid out the evidence of the secret account, showing the transfers that coincided with Liam's bonuses and raises. She showed how the money was used not for business, but for lavish personal expense weekends away. Expensive gifts, the very necklace he had given to his mistress. This is not the case of a single, regrettable mistake. Your Honor, Chloe said, her voice ringing with conviction. This is the case of a calculated, multi-year campaign of deceit. Mr. Porter wasn't just committing adultery. He was committing financial fraud against his own family. He wasn't just breaking his vows. He was actively stealing from his wife and child. Finally, she turned to the matter of the video. Mr. Vance would have you believe that my client leaked this video out of greed. The truth is, she acted out of fear. She acted only after Mr. Porter threatened her, damaged their home, and then filed a baseless, malicious petition for full custody, attempting to take her child away from her. This was not an act of aggression. It was an act of self-defense, an act of a mother protecting her child from a man who had proven he would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. She paused, letting the words hang in the air. She looked directly at Liam, who finally looked up, his eyes wide with shock, as if he was hearing the true story of his own actions for the very first time. Mr. Porter built a beautiful house of cards. Your Honor, a perfect career, a perfect reputation. But it was all built on a foundation of lies. My client didn't knock that house down. She simply turned on the lights, and it fell all on its own. Chloe sat down. The courtroom was silent. The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, looked down at the piles of evidence before her. She looked from Liam's pale, strained face to mine. I met her gaze, and for the first time, I let her see everything. The pain, the anger, but also the strength, the unwavering resolve of a mother who had been pushed to the edge and had refused to fall. The judge cleared her throat. Mr. Porter, she said, her voice stern and unforgiving. In all my years on the bench, I have rarely seen such a flagrant and calculated disregard for the sanctity of a marital partnership. Your actions, both personally and financially, are reprehensible. Liam sank lower in his chair, the color draining from his face. The judgment was swift and brutal. I was awarded sole physical custody of Lily. Liam would have supervised visitation, pending completion of an anger management course. I was awarded the house, free and clear. And because of the financial fraud, I was awarded 70% of all marital assets, including the full $100,000 from his secret account, plus punitive damages and all of my legal fees. It was a total, complete victory. More than Chloe and I had even hoped for. As the judge adjourned the court, Arthur Vance was already packing his briefcase, barely giving Liam a second glance. He had lost, and he was moving on. Liam just sat there, staring blankly at the empty judge's bench. He was a man who had gambled everything and lost it all. I stood up, my legs feeling weak with relief. Chloe gave my shoulder a squeeze. We did it, she whispered. I started to walk out, but then I stopped. I turned and walked over to the table where Liam was still sitting, a broken man in a $1,000 suit. He looked up at me, his eyes empty. All the anger, all the fight, was gone. There was nothing left but the wreckage. Why, Ava? He whispered, his voice hoarse. Why did you have to destroy me? I looked down at him, not with hatred, not with pity, but with a strange, sad clarity. You were already destroyed. Liam, I said, my voice soft but firm. You did it to yourself. I just refused to be destroyed with you. And with that, I turned and walked out of the courtroom, leaving the ruins of my old life behind me. I stepped out into the bright, cold afternoon, took a deep breath of clean air, and for the first time, I felt the future stretching up before me, vast and open and entirely my own. Leaving the courthouse felt like walking out of a long, dark tunnel into the sun. The weight that I had been carrying for so long, the weight of his lies, of the legal battle, of the uncertainty lifted all at once. I didn't feel elation or triumph, just a profound and quiet sense of peace. It was over. The war was won. Chloe and I went to a small cafe nearby. We ordered coffee and pastries, but mostly we just sat in a comfortable silence for a few minutes, letting the verdict sink in. So, she finally said, a slow, satisfied smile spreading across her face. How does it feel to be a free, and rather wealthy, woman? I laughed. A real, genuine laugh that felt rusty from disuse. It feels quiet. Is that weird? Not at all, she said, her expression softening. You've been living in the middle of a hurricane for months. The quiet is the sound of you winning. You should get used to it. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of change. With the legal battle behind me, I could finally focus on dismantling the last remnants of my old life and building a new one. The first, and most symbolic, act was selling the house. That beautiful, sprawling house in the suburbs had become a monument to a life that was a lie. Every room held a memory, and most of them were now tainted. It wasn't a home anymore. It was a crime scene. I hired a real estate agent and was ruthless in my purging. I sold the expensive furniture Liam had insisted on buying. I packed away the crystal glasses we never used and the formal china that only came out for his work dinners. I kept only the things that truly mattered: Lily's drawings, the photo albums from before the darkness set in, the worn armchair where I had rocked my daughter to sleep as a baby. Saying goodbye to the house was less painful than I expected. The day the sale closed, I walked through the empty rooms one last time. The sunlight streamed through the clean windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The house was just a shell now, an echo of a life that no longer existed. I closed the door behind me without a single tear, feeling nothing but relief. With the proceeds from the sale and the settlement, I was financially secure in a way I had never been before. Not even with Liam's large salary. The money wasn't a prize. It was a tool. It was freedom. It was the chance to start over, entirely on my own terms. I found a charming 2-bedroom apartment in a vibrant neighborhood in the city. It was smaller than our old house, but it was filled with light and character. It was a place for just the two of us. Lily was thrilled. She loved the energy of the city. The fact that we could walk to the park, to the ice cream shop, to the library. We spent the first few weeks making the new place our own. We painted her room a bright, sunny yellow. We bought a big, Comfortable sofa perfect for snuggling and watching movies. I turned the second bedroom into a combined office and art studio for myself. For the first time in over a decade, I had a dedicated space for my own creativity. My own work. Setting up my new computer and unpacking my design software felt like a homecoming. I started small, taking on freelance projects for local businesses, a logo for a new bakery, a website for a yoga studio. The work was invigorating. I had forgotten how much I love the process of creation, of taking an idea and giving it shape and color in life. I was rusty at first, but with each project, my confidence grew. The part of me that I thought had died, the ambitious, creative woman from my past, was slowly, tentatively reawakening. Liam, meanwhile, was a ghost. He fulfilled his court-mandated supervised visits with Lily at a family center. I would drop her off and pick her up, and our exchanges were brief and sterile. He looked terrible. He had lost weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He had lost his job, his home, his reputation, and now, his family. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a hollowed-out weariness. Lily would come home from these visits quiet and thoughtful. Daddy seemed sad, she told me one evening as I was tucking her into bed. My heart ached for her. I sat on the edge of her bed and took her hand. I know, sweetie, he's going through a hard time right now. But you know that has nothing to do with you, right? You know that he loves you very, very much. And you love me too, she said, her voice small. More than anything in the universe, I said, kissing her forehead. It's you and me, kid. We're a team. She smiled, her eyes fluttering shut. The best team. As she drifted off to sleep, I realized that my anger towards Liam was fading. It hadn't disappeared, but it was no longer the all-consuming fire it had once been. It was being replaced by a kind of detached pity. He was a man who had been given everything: a loving wife, a beautiful child, a successful career, and he had systematically set it all on fire out of sheer, pathetic greed. His punishment wasn't the loss of his money or his job. His punishment was having to live with the knowledge of what he had thrown away. The healing process was slow and not always linear. There were days of crushing loneliness, nights when the silence in the apartment felt deafening. I was rebuilding my life from the ground up, and it was hard work. I was a single mother, a business owner, a woman rediscovering who she was after a decade of defining herself through her husband. But there were also moments of pure, unadulterated joy. Laughing with Lily until our sides hurt over a silly joke. The immense satisfaction of sending an invoice for a project I had completed on my own. Sitting in my sun-drenched studio with a cup of coffee. The whole day stretching before me, full of possibility. One afternoon, about 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was working on a branding proposal for a new client. My phone rang. It was an old professor of mine from design school, a woman I hadn't spoken to in years. Ava Porter, she said. Her voice as warm and energetic as I remembered. I saw some of your new freelance work floating around online. It's fantastic. You haven't lost your touch. Thank you, Maria, I said, surprised and flattered. I'm just getting back into it. Well, I'm glad you are, she said, because I have a proposition for you. I'm teaching an advanced digital design course at the university next semester, and I need a teaching assistant, someone with real-world experience who can mentor the students. Your name was the first one that came to mind. Would you be interested? I was stunned into silence. A teaching position at the university. It wasn't just a freelance gig. It was a career, a chance to not only create, but to inspire, a chance to step back into the world I had left behind. Not as a student, but as a mentor. I would love that, I finally managed to say, a huge smile spreading across my face. I would absolutely love that. When I hung up the phone, I leaned back in my chair and looked around my small studio. The walls were covered in sketches and color palettes. My computer screen glowed with the logo I was designing. Outside, the sounds of the city hummed with life. For so long, my world had been shrinking, closing in on me. Now, it was finally, beautifully, expanding. The past was a scar, but it was no longer an open wound. The future was unwritten, and for the first time in a very long time, I was the one holding the pen. A year can change everything. A year after I walked out of that courtroom, I was a different woman living a different life. The teaching position at the university was a perfect fit. It gave me structure, purpose, and a connection to a vibrant community of young, creative minds. It also gave me the flexibility to continue building my own freelance business, which was now thriving. I had a steady stream of clients, and my professional reputation, the one I thought I'd lost forever, was growing. I was no longer just Ava Porter, the scorned wife from the gossip blogs. I was Ava Porter, the talented designer. My new life was smaller, simpler, and infinitely richer than the old one. My relationship with Lily blossomed in our new, peaceful environment. We fell into a comfortable rhythm of school and work, park visits and pizza nights. We were a team, a solid and unbreakable unit of two. The haunted look that had been in her eyes during the worst of the divorce was gone, replaced by the carefree sparkle of a happy, well-loved child. I didn't date. I wasn't ready. My focus was on my daughter and my career, on rediscovering and rebuilding myself. For the first time, being on my own didn't feel like a state of loneliness. It felt like a state of wholeness. I was enough, just as I was. One crisp autumn afternoon, almost exactly a year after the final hearing, I was picking Lily up from her weekly visit with Liam. The supervised visits had ended a few months prior, and now he had her for a few hours every Saturday. He would take her to the park or a museum. Our handoffs were still brief, conducted on the neutral ground of a coffee shop lobby. I was waiting near the entrance when I saw them walking toward me, hand in hand. Liam looked different. He had put on a little weight, and the perpetual tension in his jaw was gone. He was wearing jeans and a simple sweater, not a designer suit. He looked like a normal person, not the high-powered architect he had tried so hard to be. He smiled a little when he saw me, a genuine, tired smile. Lily ran ahead and threw her arms around my legs. "Mommy, Daddy took me to the science museum. We saw a real dinosaur skeleton," she exclaimed, her face bright with excitement. "That sounds amazing, sweetie," I said, hugging her tight. Liam stopped a few feet away. "She had a good day," he said, his voice quiet. "I'm glad," I replied. "Thank you for taking her." I expected him to turn and leave, as he always did, but he hesitated. "Ava, can I talk to you for just a second?" I was wary, but I nodded. I told Lily to go sit at one of the small tables and that I'd be right there. "What is it, Liam?" I asked, my tone neutral. He took a deep breath, and for the first time since that night in the restaurant, he met my eyes directly. The emptiness I had seen in the courtroom was gone, replaced by something that looked like acceptance, like sorrow. I wanted to say I'm sorry," he said, the words coming out in a quiet rush. Not the way I said it before. Not because I got caught or because I wanted something. Just, I'm sorry. For everything. I listened, my arms crossed, not letting my guard down. "I spent the last year thinking," he continued, looking down at his hands, "thinking about what I did, who I was. I was chasing something, Ava, a version of success that I thought would make me happy. And I was willing to burn down everything good in my life to get it. I was a coward. And I was a fool." He looked up at me again, and I could see the truth of his words in his eyes. This wasn't a manipulation. This wasn't a tactic. This was a man who had hit rock bottom and had finally been forced to look at his own reflection. "I destroyed us," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I destroyed our family. And I hurt you in a way that I can never fix. And I am so sorry for that. You didn't deserve any of it." A wave of complex emotions washed over me. The anger that had been my fuel for so long had finally burned out. All that was left was the scar tissue of a deep, old wound. Hearing his apology, his real, honest apology, didn't magically heal it, but it was like a soothing balm. It was the acknowledgement I never thought I would get. "Thank you for saying that, Liam," I said, my voice softer than I expected. "I'm in therapy now," he said. "I'm working. A small firm. Doing drafting. It's humbling, but it's a start. I'm trying to be a better man. The kind of man our daughter can actually be proud of someday." I nodded slowly. "That's good. I'm glad to hear that." The silence stretched between us, no longer filled with tension, but with the vast, quiet space of everything that had been lost. "You look good, Ava," he said finally. "Happy." "I am," I said, and the truth of it settled deep in my bones. "I am happy." He gave a small, sad smile. "You deserve to be." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, simple envelope. It was not a legal document. It was a birthday card for Lily. For her party next week. I know I'm not invited. But could you give this to her? Of course, I said, taking it from him. Okay. Well, I'll see you next week. He turned and walked away, his shoulders not as broad as I remembered them. I watched him go, a ghost from another life, and I felt a final, quiet release. I had accepted his apology, not for him, but for me. It was the last piece of baggage I needed to set down so I could walk freely into my future. Hating him had been a full-time job, and I was finally, officially, retired. I walked over to Lily, who was busy drawing on a napkin. I sat down across from her, a real smile on my face, ready to go home. Sweetie? She nodded, pushing the napkin across the table to me. It was a drawing, a simple stick figure portrait of the two of us, holding hands. We both had huge, smiling faces. Above our heads, she had drawn a bright yellow sun. I picked it up, my heart swelling with a love so pure and powerful it almost took my breath away. This was my life. This was my truth. This little girl, our cozy apartment, the work that I loved. It wasn't the life I had planned 10 years ago. It was so much better. It was a life I had built not on lies or ambition, but on resilience, on courage, and on love. I took her hand, her small fingers fitting perfectly in mine. We walked out of the coffee shop and into the golden afternoon light. The future was unknown, but for the first time in a very long time, I wasn't afraid. I was ready for it. I was free.